Stepping back into civilian life after coming home for good felt like touching down on an entirely different planet. Everything was transformed. Some changes sparked excitement and brimming potential, while others cast a nostalgic shadow over the familiar rhythms I once cherished. The world I returned to was both comfortingly recognizable and intriguingly altered, and it took a little while to regain my footing in this new landscape. One shining beacon on the horizon was my acceptance to Culver Stockton College, tucked away in Canton, Missouri, just a stone's throw from Quincy. My older brother Ron, a proud alumnus, had sung the school's praises, filling me with anticipation. Not only was this my chance for a fresh start, but its close proximity meant I could snag a part-time gig to prevent my wallet from gathering dust. With the GI Bill covering tuition, it felt like the universe was aligning, and the pieces were falling beautifully into place. But before I could plunge into the world of textbooks and term papers, I found myself staring at an entire summer unfurling before me, a golden opportunity to reclaim time lost. There were friendships to rekindle, late-night escapades to embark on, and a treasure trove of teenage mischief just waiting for my return. College could hold its horses. First, I had living to embrace and memories to rediscover. Dan's story about meeting Brenda. On a golden August evening, when the air shimmered with the last enchanted light of summer, Brenda K. Smith and her dearest friend Bobby set forth on a small but thrilling adventure. Their hearts beat in time with the season's promise, hovering between the bittersweet memories of junior year and the thrilling unknown of the senior days ahead. The world itself seemed to pause, holding its breath as the two girls, radiant with youth, set their sights on the neon-washed haven of Sandy's Hamburgers along Jefferson Street, a sanctuary of laughter, shared secrets, and the simple joy of cold sodas on a warm night. Earlier that day, Brenda had spun through her shift at the Woolworth cafeteria, her smile as generous as the sun, her hands steady even as fatigue crept into her bones. When evening descended, she found herself yearning for nothing so much as the effervescent fizz of a Coke and the soothing balm of friendly company. No car could be summoned, but that hardly mattered. The 6 or 7 blocks to Sandy's became not an obstacle, but an invitation. Arm in arm, Brenda and Bobby strolled beneath the languid sway of street lamps, their laughter woven into the gentle breeze. The city in those moments belonged to them alone. Elsewhere, fate was quietly at work. I was cruising 12th Street with my pack of friends, the windows rolled down to let in the honeyed air, when the sight of those 2 young women strolling beneath the twilight caught our attention, 2 girls who seemed to glide through the evening as if they owned the very sidewalk beneath their feet. Larry, ever the incorrigible flirt, couldn't resist his instincts. With a mischievous grin, he stuck his head out the car window and called out, our curiosity piqued and pulses quickening. We parked and tumbled out onto the sidewalk, the moment alive with a sense of possibility. My gaze was instantly drawn to Brenda, petite, luminous, her chestnut hair cascading in gentle waves, catching the last embers of sunlight and turning them to gold. But it was her eyes that truly ensnared me, vast, fathomless, brimming with the light of 1,000 unspoken dreams. Each glance from her felt like an invitation to explore entire galaxies, to lose myself among the constellations that sparkled in her gaze. As we approached, I felt an invisible thread pulling me closer, an irresistible force that seemed to bind us together, even before a single word was spoken. Brenda moved with a grace that was effortless yet unmistakable, a quiet confidence that made her seem both untouchable and achingly real. When our eyes met, the world seemed to tilt on its axis. I felt a spark leap between us, electric and undeniable, igniting some hidden corner of my soul that had until then lain dormant. Her smile, oh, her smile, was nothing less than a sunrise breaking over the horizon, radiant and warm, casting everything in a new, more hopeful light. In that single dazzling moment, I wondered how someone could possess such beauty, such vivacity, such unguarded warmth. Around us, conversation ebbed and flowed, but I was deaf to all of it, save for Brenda. The way she idly twirled a strand of hair, the way her laughter bubbled up soft and sincere, the way the fluorescent glow from the diner sign turned her eyes into pools of liquid starlight, all of it rendered me utterly spellbound. She was at once a mystery and an open book, a paradox I longed to unravel. Then, with the subtlety of a sorceress, she broke the silence between us with a teasing smile. "So, Dan," she murmured, her voice dancing with playful mischief, her head tilted just so. It was an invitation, a challenge, a secret code meant only for me. Emboldened, I grinned and replied with mock bravado, "Not nervous at all, little munchkin, but maybe you should be." My heart hammered in my chest, alive with the wild, dizzy joy that only youth and romance can summon. In that instant, the world outside faded into irrelevance. No fears, no hesitations, just the two of us suspended in a shimmering moment of possibility. Brenda's laughter rang out, sweet as birdsong, and I felt myself falling, helplessly and gloriously, under her spell. Her wit was quick and clever, her every word a playful dare, drawing me ever closer, as if she held the line to my heart and was reeling me in, inch by intoxicating inch. With a carefree farewell to my friends, "See you later, bros," I surrendered to the magic that had blossomed between us. The night unfolded like a richly embroidered tapestry. Each shared joke, every lingering glance, each whispered confession, a new thread, woven together in wild, vibrant colors by the unpredictable energy of a summer storm. We became co-conspirators in a dreamlike game of pursuit and surrender, chasing each other through the hours as if the world itself might end with the dawn. In Brenda's presence, the ordinary became miraculous. Every moment throbbed with promise. Every touch was electric, every word a note in the symphony of a night that belonged to us and us alone. And as the stars wheeled silently overhead, I knew with absolute certainty that I had stumbled into something rare and wondrous, an adventure spun from moonlight and laughter, as fleeting and precious as a firefly's light, yet destined to linger in my memory forever.
Bobby's parents' house sat just a block down the alley from mine, a fact that made spontaneous visits easy. On this particular evening, Bobby and I, restless as ever, were stuck with nothing to do. Her parents were out, the house was quiet, and there was nothing worth watching on TV. With no car, we decided that the only reasonable cure for our boredom was a short walk to Sandy's drive-in. The promise of ice-cold Cokes and the thrill of a summer evening sent us bounding down the street, our laughter filling the air. The route to Sandy's was a well-worn path, but that night every step felt steepingly with possibility. Just 2 blocks from our destination, a car full of guys rolled by us, windows down, their shouts and laughter slicing through the quiet. Normally, we would have ignored the commotion, but that night was young and we were feeling bold. With a quick glance at each other, Bobby and I grinned and waved. The car screeched, executed a dramatic U-turn, and rolled up alongside. Suddenly, we were looking at an opportunity to break the evening's monotony. Out jumped Larry, who recognized Bobby and greeted her with a grin that would have embarrassed a cat. 2 other guys followed. Bobby was the tallest of the bunch, who immediately commanded my attention. He looked a little older, athletic, and moved with an easy confidence. His eyes, warm and searching, locked onto mine with an intensity that made the world tilt. He introduced himself as Dan, and when he asked my name, his smile made my heart race like I just sprinted the length of a block. In that instant, I felt it, a spark, a silent understanding. It was as if the universe had been quietly planning this moment, and now that it was here, the air was buzzing with possibility. Dan suggested we all pile into the car and head to Sandy's together. His tone allowed no argument. It was clear he was the unofficial ringleader. Bobby and Larry climbed in the back seat, while Dan opened the front passenger door and gestured for me to slide in between him and Tim, the third guy, short, chatty, and filled with energy. We squeezed into a booth at Sandy's, sipping sodas and trading stories, the hours slipping away in a blur of laughter and flirtatious glances. Eventually, Dan leaned in and declared, "Let's go for a ride." Who were we to argue? The night was still young, and adventure was exactly what we'd been craving. Dan drove to Tim's house, and he and Tim disappeared inside for a few minutes. When Dan returned alone, he announced that Tim was tied up for the evening, then turned to Larry and asked where he wanted to be dropped off. One by one, our group dwindled until it was just me and Dan. The anticipation between us growing thicker with every passing moment. Now came a dilemma. Do I slide over to my own side of the seat or stay right next to Dan, pressed up against him in a silent message of interest? I hesitated for a fraction of a second before deciding that I didn't want to put any distance between us. I stayed put, feeling both shy and bold at once, my heart pounding in my chest. There was something about Dan, his warmth, his easy confidence, that made me feel safe in a way I'd never experienced before. Dan drove out of town to a spot he called Hidden Lake, a secluded area where the only soundtrack was the quiet hum of the night and our favorite songs playing on the radio. We talked as if we'd known each other for years, our conversation flowing effortlessly. Then Dan leaned in and kissed me. It was a kiss that was electric, passionate, and impossibly tender all at once. A kiss that made me wish the night would never end, that this moment could stretch on forever. And in that perfect moonlit evening, I realized that sometimes fate can bring the most pleasant of surprises.
When Brenda first entered my world, I couldn't have predicted the seismic shift she would spark in my life. Back then, our relationship was mostly physical attraction. She was pretty and fun to be around. Little did I know, she was destined to become the heartbeat of my life. Despite feeling an undeniable pull toward her, I kept my guard firmly in place. My heart, still scarred from the battles of both love and war, wasn't something I was ready to hand over lightly. I told myself I needed proof, real, unmistakable proof, that her love was the kind that wouldn't vanish when things got tough. Brenda was only 17, standing on the threshold of adulthood, while I, barely 20, yet carrying the weight of war on my shoulders, felt ancient by comparison. The innocence in her eyes contrasted sharply with the jaded lens through which I viewed the world. Still, as the days slipped quietly by, something remarkable happened. Brenda's true nature began to shine through, each encounter peeling back another layer. What I discovered was astonishing. Beneath her pretty exterior was a wellspring of kindness, warmth, and unwavering love, qualities that seemed almost otherworldly in their purity. Not long after our paths first intertwined, Brenda shared the news that her family was about to embark on a significant transition. Her announcement came with a mix of excitement and apprehension, and my heart sank at the thought of her moving away. But then, with a spark of joy in her eyes, she quickly reassured me. They found their dream house, she exclaimed, and my heart soared with relief when she revealed it was a charming brick bungalow, standing directly across the street from where they currently lived. The way she spoke about it, her face lit up with pure delight, was infectious. This wasn't just any move, it was a monumental milestone in her family's journey. For Brenda, this would be the first home her parents ever purchased. Growing up, her father had switched jobs frequently, which meant they often rented, moving from town to town as necessary. The thought of finally having a forever home was a dream come true for them, and it filled me with warmth to see Brenda so thrilled. I vividly remember visiting her just days before her parents were set to sign the paperwork for the house. The excitement in the air was palpable, but beneath it lay a current of anxiety radiating from Brenda. When I asked her what was troubling her, her words tumbled out in a rush. Her parents were short several $100s for the down payment. Unexpected expenses had cropped up, pushing them beyond their budget, and the lender was steadfastly refusing to adjust the loan amount. As she opened the door to let me in, I was struck by an astonishing sight. A pile of money meticulously arranged on the floor. Brenda had counted it out in piles of $1, $5, $10, and $20 bills, but the look of despair on her face told me everything I needed to know. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she explained that this was her entire life savings, freshly withdrawn from the bank. She was determined to help her parents, knowing they needed $400 to secure their dream home. In that moment, I was frozen in awe. There stood my 17-year-old girlfriend, willing to sacrifice years of hard-earned savings for the sake of her family's stability and happiness. I watched, utterly captivated, as she dashed upstairs to retrieve a cherished piggy bank she had kept tucked away in her bedroom. With a hammer in hand, she began to smash it open, pouring out coins and carefully counting them, adding each one to her growing total. It was a sight that filled me with both admiration and profound love for the person she was revealing herself to be. Though I wasn't present to witness the moment she presented all her savings to her parents, I could feel the essence of who Brenda was changing in my eyes. She was not just a beautiful girl from down the street. She was a loving daughter, embodying selflessness and generosity in a way I had never seen before. In that act of kindness, her family was able to purchase their home, a testament to the depth of her love and devotion. On moving day, I was overjoyed to lend a hand to Brenda's family as we transported boxes and furniture across the street to their new abode. The excitement radiating from her family was contagious, and it was abundantly clear how much Brenda's unwavering support meant to them. As I helped carry their belongings, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. I was beginning to uncover the true essence of Brenda, a remarkable young woman who was so much more than the initial impression I had of her. She was a beacon of love and compassion, and I knew then that I had stumbled upon something truly special. That summer I landed a job as a stockboy at Denny's discount store, a homegrown attempt at a Walmart, minus the corporate gloss and with a lot more character. Quincy hadn't seen anything quite like it yet, and neither had I. My paycheck was modest, just enough to keep me afloat and start squirreling away for the looming mountain of college expenses. Because funds were tight, Brenda and I became masters at the art of simple dates. Most evenings found us parked in my old car in front of her house talking for hours about everything and nothing, the radio humming softly in the background. We saw each other every single day, and before long I was her unofficial chauffeur, driving her to and from school and shuttling her to her shifts at Woolworth's, a trip that used to cost her a precious quarter on the city bus. Brenda, for all her independence, still didn't have a driver's license. She'd passed driver's ed with flying colors back in high school, but her family simply couldn't stretch the budget to cover insurance for a teenage driver. She took it all in stride, sometimes hiking the distance downtown with quiet determination. My new role as Brenda's personal driver didn't just make her life easier, it also won me some much needed points with her parents. Sure, I was a little older, and I really put their nerves to the test when I started taking Brenda around town on my shiny new motorcycle. But slowly and surely, I became a familiar and trusted presence. Then came the milestone I'll never forget, the day I brought Brenda home to meet my folks. If you've ever worried about first impressions, let me tell you, this was one for the record books. The moment Brenda shook my mother's hand, something clicked. The air practically crackled with understanding. My mom, who had harbored nothing but disdain for the girl who'd left me heartbroken with empty promises, saw something in Brenda, a warmth, a kindness, an inner glow that made her heart soften instantly. In that brilliant, unexpected moment, I was struck by the memory of my mother's comforting words from years past, whispered to a much younger, much sadder version of me. "Danny, there's more than one fish in the sea. You haven't found the right girl yet, but someday you will, and she'll be a wonderful person who loves you for who you are." Standing there, watching Brenda and my mother laugh together in the kitchen, I realized that prophecy had finally come true. Every relationship faces its share of challenges, and ours was no exception. If I've learned anything, it's that true love is built on two unwavering pillars: forgiveness and communication. You have to be ready to forgive the inevitable slip-ups. Trust me, I've had more than my fair share, and just as willing to talk things through, even when the conversation is uncomfortable. Sometimes what you say when you say it and how you express it makes all the difference between drifting apart and growing closer. Now, if you're looking for the secret sauce to memorable dates, let me tell you, nothing beats the magic of a drive-in movie. There's something special about cozying up in the front seat, separated from the world by rolled-up windows and the soothing hum of a tinny speaker hooked onto the door. It gave us a sense of privacy you'd never get in a crowded theater or at a rowdy high school football game. At the drive-in, we could laugh, talk, and yes, steal a kiss or two without feeling like we were center stage for an audience of hundreds. And if the movie was a dud, no problem. We'd fill the night with whispered secrets, stolen glances, and the kind of connection you can only forge beneath a starlit sky. Several months into our whirlwind romance, we found ourselves at another forgettable flick. Brenda was curled up in my arms, and I was content just to hold her. That's when it happened. She looked up at me with those soulful eyes and, almost in a whisper, said the three words I never dared hope I'd hear: "I love you." Time froze. My heart leapt. And then, like a complete deer in headlights, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I was so stunned, so unprepared for the moment, that my nerves got the best of me. My reaction hit Brenda like a thunderbolt. Tears welled up in her eyes, and regret smacked me square in the face. I'd done the very thing I'd always feared someone would do to me. In my panic, I tried to console her, apologizing over and over, berating myself internally for fumbling such a monumental moment. Yet, as I held her close, something shifted. Her vulnerability, her willingness to risk her heart, shattered the walls I'd built around mine. That night, her tears didn't just break me down, they broke me open. We talked for hours, hashing out the hurt and healing from the wound I'd inflicted. I don't remember a single scene from that movie, but I remember how we started planning a future together right then and there. I explained the fortress I'd built around my heart, and Brenda listened with the wisdom of someone far beyond her 17 years. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Let's build our own wall, one brick at a time. Something so strong it can withstand anything life throws our way." Looking back, I'm still amazed by her wisdom, her grace, and her boundless kindness. That night, Brenda didn't just heal my heart, she claimed it completely. I count myself the luckiest person in the world to have married a woman whose love is as beautiful as it is unbreakable. And if you ask me, that's the real blockbuster love story worth telling. We hit a point where date nights out became rare luxuries. Our wallets begged for mercy, and so did our tired feet. Instead, we started spending cozy evenings at each other's homes, saving our cash while piling on the affection. The magic always seemed to happen after her parents retreated upstairs. With the soft, flickering light of the TV forgotten in the background, we found entertainment in the warmth of each other's arms and in the quiet, stolen kisses on the couch. Brenda was everything I had ever dreamed of, kind-hearted, genuine, and real. I knew without a doubt she was the one. So I mustered up my courage and asked her the biggest question of my life. She said yes, and in a whirlwind of excitement, we dashed off to the jewelry stores, eager to find rings that would seal our promise. Reality hit hard when we saw the prices. The sparkle of diamonds was dimmed by our meager budget. My part-time stockboy earnings barely covered gas, let alone a flashy engagement ring. But Brenda was never about glitz or showing off. She bypassed the gaudy displays and picked out a simple, elegant silver band with a modest quarter-carat diamond. Even then, it was a stretch for me. Determined, I sold my prized motorcycle to make it work. When I slipped the ring on her finger and saw her eyes light up, I knew every sacrifice was worth it. We set our sights on a summer wedding, planning to tie the knot just a month after her high school graduation. One late night after wrapping up my shift at 10, I rushed to Brenda's house for a few precious hours together. We ended up falling asleep on her living room floor, lulled by the comfort of being close. Around 1 a.m., Brenda woke up in a panic, realizing I was still there and her parents could find us any minute. She noticed I was thrashing in my sleep. A nightmare was gripping me tight. Hoping to save us both from trouble, she reached over and shook me awake. In that instant, my mind was somewhere else, back in Vietnam, reliving the terror of a firefight at Firebase Neville. Jolted awake, I lashed out, grabbed Brenda by the throat, and lifted her clean off the ground. To her, those seconds stretched into an eternity. Mercifully, reality crashed back in, and I released her, horrified by what I'd done. She had never witnessed one of my nightmares before. I begged for forgiveness, desperate for her to understand that it wasn't truly me that hurt her, but a broken part of me I'd carried home from war. From then on, she never risked waking me with a touch. If she needed to rouse me, she'd wiggle my toe and jump back. Anything to keep a safe distance. Even now, I marvel at her capacity to forgive. Maybe it was the countless hours she spent listening to me unravel stories from Vietnam, stories she couldn't quite grasp, but understood mattered to me. She admitted she often felt helpless, unsure what to say or how to help. But she did help, just by listening. Some things I've learned shouldn't be bottled up. They need to be faced, or they'll find a way to erupt. Brenda was my anchor in the storm, the only person I trusted with the things that haunted me. She never turned away, never gave up, and walked with me through every shadow. I thank God every day she chose to stay, handling my demons with me, not against me. Her love didn't just save me. It taught me that healing is possible when someone truly listens. Our wedding, well, let's just say it was the kind of day that makes the rest of your life look brighter and worth living. I know people are always saying their wedding was the best day of their lives, but for me, it was more than just cake, punch, and awkward family hugs. It was seeing Brenda shine, walking down the aisle in that dress she bought with her own hard-earned savings. She handled it all, her dress, the flowers, even the little details, making sure her family never was financially overburdened. That was Brenda at her best. Selfless, thoughtful, putting others first even when it meant pinching her own pennies. Watching her that day, I came to a decision. One of those crossroad moments you can't put off. If Brenda could do all that, I could step up too. I made a promise right then and there that I'd find a way to support her, and if we were lucky, a family too. College suddenly seemed less important than the life we could build together. So I quit, packed up my books, and set my sights on full-time work. No regrets, no looking back. Of course, that's the kind of promise that sounds a whole lot easier in the glow of a wedding than it does at 6 in the morning in a factory. But with Brenda beside me, nothing felt impossible. We were a team, ready to take on whatever the world threw at us. And somehow, knowing we were in it together, that's what made the struggle worth it every single day.